Hey.
Well, hello, good afternoon out there on Facebook land. How is everybody?
Hi. Hi. We're gonna have a great discussion, just you and I, Chuck,
Yes.
plus the people that can post their questions and comments on Facebook. I will be also monitoring the Facebook page.
Okay.
So
Preámbulo en español.
oh, that would be great. We're gonna have.
Okay.
Hold on, just 1 second. Let me just turn off the mic.
Preámbulo en español.
There you go. Sorry about that.
Okay. Despacio, por favor. Okay. Nosotros en Gracia Viva y en Oakland creemos que todos merecen ser amados, escuchados, afirmados, respetados. De igual manera, creemos que como iglesia es posible ofrecer esto el uno al otro cuando nosotros escuchamos, aprendemos, apreciamos la diversidad de todas maneras, de toda manera, amamos a Dios por encima de todo, amamos a nuestro prójimo como a nosotros mismos. Por lo tanto, como partes individuales de la iglesia, nos comprometemos a movernos hacia esta realidad cooperativa para que la iglesia pueda ver una voz para los sin voz, un hogar para el vagabundo, un respiro para los cansados, un bálsamo para el herido. La presencia de Dios en el mundo.
Amen.
Maybe do it by myself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was good. Thank you. Thank you for
okay. It was okay. I had not practiced it, so
okay.
I was just off the cuff. I didn't practice it. Okay.
All right. So we wanna welcome Jamie Hamilton and Gina Han, who are watching this broadcast.
All right, welcome.
Welcome.
All right. So the story of Jesus healing blind Bartimaeus, and they are leaving Jericho. A number of things that we could talk about in this. The man starts shouting at Jesus, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." And then many sternly ordered him to be quiet. So what experience do we have of people trying to shush us, trying to deny us a voice?
Yeah, many times. In my experience, one person asked me recently, how would I describe myself in one word? And interestingly enough, I immediately said a survivor.
Okay.
And they're like, why? And I'm like, because I'm always trying to survive different things. But then when I got into praying and meditating, because that moves something inside me. I'm like, why do I consider myself a survivor? Why do I feel like the world is trying to get me? You know, why do I feel
the
like
world is out to get you? You feel like the world is out to get you?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
unconsciously, because that was my initial reaction of categorizing myself as a survivor.
Okay.
So that got me thinking, if I really understood that Jesus is with me, why do I think that I have to survive?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So and in many occasions, for example, in the reading of today, we see that perhaps because people are trying to either demoralize us or to prevent us from getting our blessings,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean that we should be a victim.
Right.
So, for
Yeah, when they're
example,
trying to shush it, when they're trying to shush him, he shouts even louder.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that for me took me to that instance, and I'm like, wow. I mean, the reason we go for our blessings and we fight for our blessings, just like the woman that was trying to touch Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
the woman with the bleeding problem. Um, that doesn't mean that we are surviving. That means that we want that we're trying to get to what we want and we're getting it.
Uh-huh.
So I mean that got me thinking immediately to that situation or to that instance, and I'm like, people trying to shush us or people trying to marginalize us doesn't um, doesn't mean that they are our victims unless we allow them to do it.
Okay.
So we do have that saying, we do have that power.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, what do you think?
Well, there's a long history of the dominant group or the dominant culture trying to take the voice of people away,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's voting, trying to deny certain groups an opportunity to vote, excluding people from making policy, ignoring people's needs. That's one of the things we say in our preamble. We're a
Mm-hmm.
voice for the voiceless. And the man was trying to make his voice heard, and they tried to shush him. So I think when Oak Lawn goes on a protest march, well, yeah, there was a protest march just recently for Shingle Mountain,
Mm-hmm.
and Oak Lawn was represented at that. So that's trying to clean up a toxic, a giant
Agree.
toxic
Uh-huh.
that is hurting people's health. And they've been trying to get it taken away for a long time. And so, there was a protest march, and people are writing into the paper, and people at the newspaper have been trying to help. So just trying to get that voice heard that this is poisoning us. This is ruining our lives. Move this.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't. And, our pastors go to city council meetings to speak on behalf of people who don't have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
Our pastors go to city council meetings to speak on behalf of unsheltered persons. And the laws are written in such a way that make it hard for Oak Lawn to provide a shelter for people. And so, our pastors go and speak out on that. So there are a lot of ways that Oak Lawn tries to be a voice for the voiceless, and the people in the passage were trying to take the man's voice away.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to get Jesus' attention. They tried to shush him.
Mm-hmm. And what takes my attention also is that Jesus allows the guy and to be heard, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, I mean, come here. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
shouting, come here. I mean, I can hear you. And I think
Yeah,
is
call
is
him
the
here.
same
Yeah.
way when we go into those protests, that is exactly the attitude that Jesus took. I mean, if you want to take a stand, let's go ahead and do it. I
Right.
mean, because if we see it through a because Jesus was always against the having a religious stand, right? I mean,
Say that again.
versus having a
Jesus was
religious
against having a religious stand.
a stand versus a human stand.
Okay. All right. Oh, I
So,
see what you mean. Okay.
so being in following the rules versus doing what is actually right for the
Okay.
people.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess by us taking that same stand in our modern world, we are imitating or following Jesus' steps.
Mm-hmm. There's a long tradition in the Bible of doing things that are legally or ritually prohibited.
Mm-hmm.
And God's faithful people do it anyway. Civil disobedience or disobedience against religious authorities, a long tradition in the Bible against that. Of taking that stand against tradition or attempts to deny justice to people or to deny compassion to people. Long tradition of that in the Bible.
Yeah.
I had a pastor friend who asked, he was in a small country church, and he asked his parishioners to list their favorite Bible passages.
Oh,
And so,
interesting.
well, it was funny because they said, the three men in the fiery furnace, and Moses in the bulrushes, and the wise men and things like that. And they collected all the answers. He said, what's common among all these? They're all civil disobedience. And they were shocked because they didn't believe in civil disobedience. All these passages that you say are your favorite passages are all about civil disobedience. So he opened their eyes to that.
Yeah. It's interesting when we pick something that we're doing unconsciously that is actually within our core.
Yeah.
Our core system, and
Yeah.
we don't know it until somebody points it out.
Right. Well, the flip side of it is the man, Bartimaeus, is assertive. When they try to shush him, he won't hush. He cries out even louder. So it's my contention that if you take all these healing stories, especially the ones where Jesus says your faith has made you well, and you add them all together, you get all the dimensions of faith, what it means to have faith. So faith is serving the way Simon's mother-in-law did. Faith is being assertive, like the men who brought the paralyzed man to Jesus. Like Bartimaeus, it's being assertive, even pushy, and continuing on. When Jesus calms a storm, faith is trust. So they're all and faith is standing up to evil, like Jesus did against the man with the unclean spirit. So there are all these different dimensions to faith. And so now I'll bring up in a minute the way this man in particular shows us faith. But one of the ways he does it is that he doesn't shut up when people try to shut him up. He's assertive. He's even pushy.
Yeah, you're right. Now, one thing that that I have actually a question on, and you bring two stories and on page 102 that you mentioned. The first story suggests that in the Gospel of Mark, that one can understand Jesus only partially. Jesus has been revealed only as the healer and exorcist who brings near the dominion of God. But what exactly were you trying to convey when you mentioned the miracle when Jesus asked the first person that was healing of sight,
Mhm.
if he was able to see correctly, and he said, well, I can only see partially, I can only see the different silhouettes as trees.
Yeah, he said, I could see people with it look like trees walking.
Uh-huh.
Okay. What I meant by that, I think what Mark is telling us is that if you only see the miracle worker Jesus, the Jesus who heals, you're only seeing part of it. That's the part we really get into, is if Jesus offers us healing, if Jesus offers us grace, forgiveness. We like that part.
Mhm.
And so Mark is telling us, if you understand only that Jesus heals us and gives us grace and forgives us and causes us to grow, enables us to grow, you're only seeing part of it. You're only partially understanding Jesus. It's
Mhm.
when you get to the cross, and in chapter 8, when Jesus says, take up your own cross and follow me, until you understand that part of it, you only understand Jesus partially. If you're only following Jesus what you can get, then you're only following part, you only understand Jesus partially. When you get to the cross, and when Jesus in chapter 8 tells us to take up our own cross, when you have both sides of those things, then you understand Jesus fully. And yes, Jesus offers us grace, offers us healing, offers us mercy, but also demands that we take up our own cross. And so until you get both sides of that, you don't understand Jesus fully. And so there may have been people, the Gospel of Mark may have been written to people who were really into that idea that, oh God's going to forgive me, God's going to bless me, God's going to heal me, but weren't taking seriously the idea of the cross.
So
Taking your own cross.
besides understanding um, the grace that Jesus gives us, we also have to understand the responsibility of following Jesus,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and be able to convert from the old creature into the new creature.
Yeah. The new creature. Yeah. And to take up our cross also and follow. See, Bartimaeus is the last of the healing stories in Mark. And after Jesus heals him, Bartimaeus follows Jesus. He's going into Jerusalem.
Mhm.
So he's going to the cross, and Bartimaeus follows him. So the healing stories have two bookends. The first is when Jesus heals Simon's mother-in-law, and then she serves them.
Yeah.
And then the last one is Bartimaeus, and he follows Jesus. So those two bookends show us our response to the healing that Jesus offers us.
Yeah.
We serve and we follow.
How amazing. How amazing. And wow. I mean, I know Pastor Isabel is gonna preach us on this story this coming Sunday. And
Okay.
yeah, and I'm really looking forward to her intake on this lesson. But
Mm-hmm.
to
And
me,
she's going to preach at Oak Lawn or in Gracia Viva, or
Oklahoma.
both. Oak Lawn.
Well,
Cool.
we're hoping to do both.
Okay. Right.
And
Right.
just
Right.
translate the message,
Right.
and I'm then preaching the following week at
Right.
Oklahoma.
I knew that. Yeah.
So,
On John chapter 6, right?
yes, to me
Okay.
it's going to be a huge blessing, but challenge,
Mm-hmm.
because of obviously, I mean, because of the language.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not the same, and you probably feel the same sentiment whenever you're preaching in Spanish, where you get some goosebumps and
Yeah. 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 Well, I mean, I'm not fluent in Spanish. I'm working on it. I'm making progress, and I can preach in Spanish if my teachers help me translate. So I can't do the translation on my own, but I'm getting there. I'm making progress. So I'm gratified that I can preach in Spanish if I get the help, because it's a wonderful experience. It is kind of scary, and I think, am I saying this right? Am I pronouncing it right?
correct.
But yeah, it's a great experience.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing. I mean, English is not my first language. It's something that I actually picked up once I moved to the United States.
Yeah.
I didn't went to a an official ESL school.
Hmm.
I learned it on the job. I
Right.
learned it at Taco Bell University. So,
You kind of
so
taught yourself, right?
yes, I did.
Okay.
I did. Yeah, I had my little dictionary, English, Spanish, or Spanish, English, and I
Mhm.
carry that every day, everywhere.
Well, good for you because I have known people who've lived in this country for decades and never learned English.
Yeah.
So, congratulations to you for doing that because some people don't.
Thank you. One of the things that helped me, I think, get a faster immersion of it was that
Hmm.
I love movies.
Okay.
So I will always go to the dollar movie theater just
Mm-hmm.
to listen, even if I didn't understand really
Yeah.
the whole concept of it. I mean, at least just one or two words from here and there
Yeah.
will allow me to, get better and get better and get better. But
Well, Monday and Tuesday night, well, anyway, this week, over a couple of nights, I watched Romancing the Stone in Spanish. I recorded it off of Telexitos.
oh, okay,
I watched Romancing the Stone in Spanish.
nice,
So
nice. Was
trying
it
to
a
get there.
different experience? I bet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Fortunately for me, it had closed captioning, so I could read. It was closed captioning in Spanish, so I was reading the Spanish while I was hearing the Spanish. So
Okay,
okay,
well,
Let's get back to let's get back to Bartimaeus.
yeah, but what one of the things that I was going to tell you is that or fears
Yeah.
can stop us from getting our blessings. So for
Right.
example, in this story, the shushing
Right.
or the hey, don't do it, or could have been impacted, uh the ability to get that blessing, to get that miracle.
Right. Right.
But because fear was not an option,
Right.
he was able to get that blessing.
Right. He didn't
And
give in to the fear, and
exactly.
yeah, he as a blind man, he was dependent on other people. He had to depend on people to take him where there was going to be a crowd that he could beg.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he had to learn how not to annoy people. Otherwise they wouldn't help him. But
Mm-hmm.
he didn't care.
Yeah.
He didn't care. We went ahead and spoke up when he needed to.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Wow. Fernando is joining us as well. Fernando is
Hello,
one of the
Fernando.
of,
Hola, Fernando.
yes, hola Fernando. So yeah, this has been very very interesting. This chapter, uh, it especially because of that,
Mm-hmm.
especially because we saw, well, we got the understanding. I got the understanding that having uh, a hearing problem
Uh-huh.
will not allow you to get the full immersion of who Jesus really was.
At least in Jesus' day, that's correct.
Exactly.
Yeah, because they had no sign language. Literacy rates were low, so probably couldn't read.
Mhm.
So yeah, a deaf man would have trouble accessing Jesus.
And
It's
now,
not true now, but it was then. Yeah,
uh-huh. But now we see a person that is able to hear but unable to see,
unable to see. Right.
and how the full senses, even if you have the full senses but are not open to receive
Right.
and to be immersed into the presence of Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really matter,
Right.
because there is a and I don't want to take this conversation into anywhere, but there is a series currently on Apple TV called C,
Mm-hmm.
and it is about how this virus came in contact with humanity and blind everyone.
Everyone.
Everyone. And all
Wow.
the yes, and all the future generations of those individuals or the families
Mhm.
will be blind as well.
Okay.
Until uh, there starts to be a rumor of a person that can see,
Hmm.
and they see him as a witch
Huh.
because he can see.
Because he could see. Okay.
And then this person starts seeing himself as God because
Okay.
he has greater abilities
Hmm.
than everyone else. But one of the things that one of the main characters mentions to one of his sons who can see is like, don't get fooled by what you can see with your physical eyes, but you have to experience what you can see with all your other senses.
Right.
Because his hearing was more perfected.
You're right.
He
Your other
could.
senses are sharpened, right?
Exactly. So how many times have we been in a situation where we can see with our
Hmm.
physical eyes, but we are shutting all of our senses,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
and
Now,
we don't get the full picture of it.
some people from the disability theology community will say to be careful using physical blindness or physical deafness as a metaphor for spiritual blindness. But the Gospel of John does go there,
Mm-hmm.
that there are people who can see physically, but they can't see spiritually. In
Mm-hmm.
John chapter 9, that's what happens.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, there are people, things are right in front of their eyes, they still don't see them. And that can be frustrating when you're trying to get them to see it and they won't see it.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the positions where sometimes the church
Mm-hmm.
is put in to try to open the eyes of people who don't see realities of others. For
Right.
example, people that are marginalized and the city doesn't see that.
Right.
People that are sick
Mm-hmm.
and and rules and regulations cannot see that.
Right. Right. That, I mean, that's an example of what I'm talking about. That say there are people who don't see the humanity of the unsheltered, of poor people, of immigrants. Um, they don't see their humanity. So I mean, they can physically see, but then they can't see the humanity of some groups.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an example of a kind of spiritual blindness. Um, so I don't want to use people who are physically blind in ways that they don't want to be used, because they will tell you there is a big difference between not being able to see and being unwilling to see.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no matter how much I might will to want to see, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a matter of me wanting to see and I just refuse to. I really can't see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yes, there is a spiritual blindness.
What in all your years of theology, teaching, teaching the gospel of Jesus, teaching many different topics, what has been the most difficult topic that you have encountered where people cannot see or don't want to see?
Huh. One topic where they just refuse to see. I don't know that it's been any. I'm trying to think while I'm talking. I don't know if it's been any one thing. I think you can kind of have a broad category Oh, they're doing a test of the emergency system. Can you hear that through the speaker? You hear what you
Yeah.
hear the siren? Yeah, they're doing a test of the emergency system. They sent us a notice that they were going to do that. Just the broad category of not being able to see the needs of others because they're worried about their own needs, because that can take many different forms. It can be poor people, it can be immigrants, it can be the LGBTQ community, and it won't see them for their full humanity. I have expressed this before that I've been very frustrated reading the social media posts of people in my former churches where I was their pastor, and the insensitive things that they say. It's very frustrating to me. So about the sojourner, about people who don't have as much money as they do, about the LGBTQ community. It has really hurt my heart to read these posts.
What can we do as leaders within our families? And I'm talking not because I believe everything starts within my environment, and my closest environment is my family.
Right.
How can I be a leader and a champion of moving the church into the right direction? Understanding, or having an understanding that I am the church.
Uh-huh.
I am an active member of a society, of a church, of I am a follower of Jesus. What could be a positive impact that I can do to, I'm gonna say, alleviate a little bit or balance that content, for example.
Well, one of the things that I've learned is that there is no foolproof method. There is no magical way you can say it or that will always work, that will get people to see what you're saying. You can make your case, you could live your life with integrity, you could live your life with love. Some people will respond to that. Other people won't. Other people won't come around. What I've said is when I preach on these controversial issues, and I don't think they should be controversial, but they are. There are people who are already with me. There are people who are never going to change ever, and then there's some people in the middle that you can reach, and you can have an impact on them, and that can be family or church or just anybody who's listening to you. There are people who are already with you. There are people who are never going to budge, and there's some people you can reach.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's heartbreaking. Now you talk about family. So if you have family members who don't try to understand you, that can be heartbreaking. That could be heartbreaking.
Yeah. One thing that I was telling a dear friend of mine, because when we were talking about LGBTQ issues and LGBTQ within the church, um, the many people don't understand that closeness that we can get in the church with our homosexuality,
Right.
because there has been many separations throughout the ages, and uh, in many different occasions we have seen the church against LGBTQ people.
Sure. Yeah.
But when we see in social media a pope that is welcoming, pope that has that on his messages is saying, parents, love your kids, love your children, God accept them exactly as they are. I mean, we can see that we are changing.
Yeah.
And that warms my heart,
Hmm.
because it's a small change. Many will perceive it, but to me, I perceive it as a big change because it comes from all the way up.
Yeah. All right. You're talking about Pope Francis, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Pope Francis is remarkable because the cardinals elect the Pope, and then the Pope selects the cardinals. So it's a system that's designed to perpetuate itself.
Hmm.
And why somebody as open-minded as Francis was able to be elected Pope is remarkable,
Yes.
because conservative popes have appointed the cardinals, but
Uh,
they elected Pope Francis. So it's a remarkable thing. But yes, I mean, he is not as open-minded as I wish he were, but he has said some things that have been very healing
mhm.
for for some communities, and he is a very open-minded, caring, compassionate man.
Hmm.
And I'm delighted that he is the Pope.
Yeah, and just the awareness and acknowledgement that he has made in some occasions
Hmm.
with the LGBTQ people that he has seen
Hmm.
throughout, his tours and so forth, has been remarkable. And I see those couples, because I saw on a Facebook post, a married, just a couple of guys, a married couple, that they went with him and they tried to get his attention. They had a rainbow flag, and I can picture the blind man doing that.
Hmm.
I mean, trying to get the attention,
Right.
saying, "We are here
Hmm.
and we are fine. We love each other, and we are in a committed relationship, and we do feel that Jesus loves us."
We are faithful Christians. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I agree.
And having that acknowledgement from the Pope
From the
to
Pope.
them
Hmm.
was something like that.
Yeah.
Something what like the blind man experience with
Yeah.
Jesus.
One of the stories I talk about in the book is Isaac,
Mm-hmm.
and he's blind, and his wife and his son try to trick him. Well, they do trick him. They succeed in tricking him. But that brings up the question of brokenness in families and betrayal within families. And it sounds like you speaking on behalf of your community have experienced that and seen that brokenness and that betrayal within a family.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Yeah, it's strong. That's
Yeah.
a strong thing. We see it
Hmm.
still in our
Hmm.
days. I mean, and we have seen it all the way from, I mean, times in which the Bible was written, but we see it unfortunately
Today. Yeah.
in our days,
Hmm.
and
Right.
how the ego of many people will just blind you from righteousness,
Hmm.
and trying to take advantage of people that are on a disadvantaged level, or they are marginalized, or they're
Hmm.
not in a good place.
Yeah. Well, see, in the story, the blind man is marginalized. He's a beggar.
Mhm.
It's as low down as you can get. So, and Jesus not only heals him. Now, I've talked to Pastor Justin about this.
Mhm.
When the man cries out to him, Jesus says, "What do you want me to do for you?" So he gives him, he gives Jesus gives Bartimaeus the authority to say what he wants. He doesn't condescend to him and say, "Oh, I know what you want. You must want to see again." He allows Bartimaeus to make the choice. He gives Bartimaeus the authority to make his own choice as to what he wants from Jesus. So,
Mhm.
and Pastor Justin said that I understood that part. So
Mhm.
that was very affirming to me that I understood that.
Yeah. So how many times we think we know, for example, if if we're trying to act as a gonna say an angel,
Mm-hmm.
or trying to help somebody in distress, and we do what we think
Yeah.
is what
Right.
they want,
Right.
where it's completely the opposite, or they just don't want to be helped. I
Yeah.
mean, because
Yeah.
they to their understanding, they don't need help.
Yeah.
Or how many times, and it has happened to me, uh they're like, I don't need your help, but somebody else does.
Right.
And
Right.
they take you to that person because
Mm-hmm.
they perceive that that person, that if you're gonna help somebody, don't help me, I can get by, help
Yeah.
this person.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, that
yeah.
can be very compassionate. Now, are you saying somebody who actually does need help but points to somebody else? Okay.
Yes.
They don't see their own need for help. Okay.
Correct. Correct.
So there are times when people need help but don't realize it. And if we give them that kind of openness, now, even in those situations, say somebody needs help but won't admit it. If
Mhm.
you try to force it on them, it won't work.
Oh
They,
yeah.
they have to realize that they need the help.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's part of what Jesus was trying to convey, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can see that you're blind, but how do you want me to help you?
Yeah. What do you want me to do for you? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's, you know, every time that I read your book, Chuck, and I have mentioned this in many occasions, and it's not to what how do you how do they call it here? It's not to make your head big,
Yeah. Okay. I had to give you a big hit. Okay. Thank you.
but it is honestly with you know, with all my heart. You bring different points of views that I didn't see before, and for that I thank you.
You're welcome.
Because
You're welcome. Betsy. That's what I was trying to do. I'm gratified to hear that I succeeded in that.
yeah, yeah,
See, I tried to look at each passage from different perspectives. Like I said, the literary perspective, the theological background, pastoral. So I appreciate hearing
yeah,
that I was able to achieve some of that. Yeah. Thank you.
to
I
me
won't let it go to my head.
okay,
All right.
okay. But okay, so Pat is watching us, Byron is watching us, and Chris
Okay.
is watching us as well. I don't have any comments, guys. Do you have any comments for us before we go? Because I don't see anything.
Okay. So we're not getting much
I guess our
not much
discussion has
dialogue
been
going on. Come on, guys. We need a little material here.
yeah, yeah. Um, let
But
me.
well, while we're waiting for a comment, one of the things that the passage brings out, this is the first time, and maybe the only time, I'm trying to remember, in the Gospel of Mark where anybody calls Jesus Son of David.
Yes, yes.
And
That was another thing.
mhm. So the titles that we give to Jesus all mean something. They give another kind of nuance to what we mean. We talk about Jesus, so who Jesus was. They give another nuance of who Jesus was. So the most popular title in Mark is Son of God. That
Mhm,
speaks to Jesus' special relationship with God and that Jesus' ministry brings the dominion of God near.
mhm,
And Son of Man is what Jesus usually calls himself. That's a term that originated in the book of Daniel and took on a life of its own after the book of Daniel. And then in the Gospels, I mean, it has multiple meanings, but in one sense, the Son of Man refers to Jesus' humanness. One of the things that the church affirms, is that Jesus is fully human and fully divine. So to call Jesus Son of God and Son of Man is to talk about both his divine nature and his human nature. Son of David brings in his political nature, the political implications.
mhm.
And the way that persons with diverse abilities are treated is a political issue. I mean, in Pastor Justin's book, he talks about the Americans with Disabilities Act
Mhm.
and how important that was. That was President George H.W. Bush in Congress who pushed that through, the ADA,
Mhm.
and how important that was and what kinds of doors that opened up. So in looking at persons with diverse abilities, there's a political dimension to it. There's not just the love of God or the love of the church or loving themselves. There's a political dimension to it. And so when Bartimaeus calls Jesus Son of David, that is a political term. And so there's a political dimension to how we treat persons with diverse abilities.
Do you think he was also trying to convey, because I mean I'm pretty sure that we see this scenario where there's obviously a lot of people. When Jesus was present, there was always a lot of a multitude,
Always a crowd.
because of his presence. So Pharisees were always there, trying to see what he did to call him out. So by him saying or calling him Son of David, that was an immediate, like, I can imagine, like, red flag, like in the soccer, like, hey, a big attention getter.
Yeah. Now, as I say, Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem where he's going to be crucified. You're right. Jesus troubled or enraged or whatever you want to say, the religious leaders, and that led to his crucifixion. So to call Jesus Son of David, there was a religious dimension to that as well as a political dimension to it. The expectations of the Messiah were that the Messiah would restore the monarchy of David. And so there are all these prophecies there are all these passages in the prophets that talk about the restoration of David's monarchy and what that will mean. And so the Gospels tell us that Jesus both fulfills those and reinterprets them. So it wasn't to throw off the Roman occupation, it was to usher in the dominion of God. And that we give our allegiance, our values to the dominion of God. But you're right. I mean, the religious leaders were bothered by Jesus, led to his crucifixion.
Yeah. But we see Jesus also recognizing what the people want to do with him, like to trying to get him to be king, and he fleeing.
Yeah, he
those situations.
Rejects that. Yeah, he rejects the title of king. And he says, in other gospels, my kingdom is not of this world. And he doesn't lead an army in revolt against Rome. He's bringing in the dominion of God. So, yeah. Now, not all of the Pharisees rejected Jesus. Nicodemus is an example of one who didn't. He didn't fully understand Jesus, but he didn't reject him.
Yeah, and I mean, for his position, I mean,
Right.
that was a big deal.
That was a big deal, right?
Yeah. Rosara has joined us as well. Hi, Rosa.
Hi, Rosa.
No comments. No comments.
Yeah.
I guess our conversation has had people really, trying to.
They're really into it. They don't have any questions on what we're talking about. No comments that we can play off of. Okay, you're gonna leave us out here twisting in the wind all by ourselves, are you? Okay, well, we can handle that.
Yeah, no, but it has been a very interesting. I mean, to me, it has been a very interesting conversation. Having, whenever we're discussing Jesus and the miracles of Jesus, they always take a different dimension because it's never about the miracle itself.
Right.
Always about a deeper meaning into it. For example, the inclusion of people that felt marginalized.
Right.
Healing the community and not only one single man.
Right.
So, and
Restoring people to their community.
exactly.
For example, the bleeding woman, restoring her to the community, and the respect that Jesus shows to Bartimaeus. As I said, he was as low on the totem pole as you can get, a beggar sitting by the side of the road, unable to work and dependent on other people, what other people would give him. So, and the respect that Jesus shows him.
Yeah.
Jesus responds to his call and asks him, "What do you want me to do for you?" So the respect that Jesus showed him.
And we see Jesus' character or frustration only when he deals with the Pharisees.
Yeah.
Whenever he is with a lot of people. I mean, I can imagine just looking at the political rallies, for example. I mean, you see a lot of people, you see one person in the middle of it. So there's a lot of friction.
Right.
But we don't see Jesus frustrated in those situations when he's with the people. We see Jesus frustrated with people inability
Right.
to empathize.
People who have power, who can change things, who don't. That's where Jesus becomes frustrated. Yes. Now Jesus becomes tired. It shows him when he's just confronted with the crowds of people who need healing. Afterwards, he wants to get away. He wants to take a break. He needs time off. He needs time to refresh himself. But yeah, he doesn't. Now, as Pastor Rachel brought up this past Sunday, he may have taken his frustration out on the Syrophoenician woman. So that was one place where he did seem to show a measure of impatience towards somebody who needed him. But for the most part, he doesn't. For the most part, he responds in compassion to the people who need him.
Yeah.
And even the ones like the bleeding woman who, that she's terrified that she didn't want to be noticed. He notices her and he calls her daughter, a loving, affectionate term. So yeah, Jesus shows great compassion towards the people who need his ministry.
Yeah. How important is compassion? How important is empathy?
Yeah.
How important is unity in our ministry? And I guess that the big takeaway is, what are we doing to follow Jesus' steps and be compassionate,
right,
show that empathy with one another
and respect.
And respect, yes.
And respect.
Yeah. Well, it has been a great conversation, Chuck.
It has been. Thank you very much, Betzy. I've enjoyed it. And you out in Facebook land, thank you for joining us. Next time, send us some comments or questions that we can play off of.
Yes.
We didn't have Pastor Morrow with us this time to help us out, so just the two of us. But thank you for joining in. And my understanding is some people will look at this afterwards. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, blessings on all of you.
We'll see some comments later on, and
It's good to be with you. Take care.
All right.
Betzy, enjoyed it.
See you, Chuck. Thank you for everything again.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for being with me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.